you think, Cousin Laddie? I think Perfect Strangers is one of the underrated 80s sitcoms.
I don't disagree with you. And frankly, there were a lot to choose from because sitcoms were the standard for network television at that point. I mean, every network had 8 of them.
8 sitcoms and 3 cops, docs, and lawyer shows.
And back when I was a boy, you just sat and watched one of the 3 networks, and that's what you did.
You liked it.
I also hate their theme song because it makes no sense to me, because I don't think that Balki Bartonomous was trying necessarily to rise with the wings. I think he was just trying to illegally immigrate into our country.
Well,
that's what we're supposed to believe, right? I mean, they're all illegals. I mean, he's deported at any point. He's clearly a criminal because they only send their worst.
He's definitely some form of a rapist.
Did he go to Baylor?
Well, no, he did not go to Baylor. That I guess let's jump right into some sports. Shocking that something has occurred on the Baylor campus that has forced the
allegedly.
Well, no, something happened. We don't know what it was yet, but something did happen that's forced the athletic director to take a leave of absence, which also means leaving the college football playoff position. So I don't know what it means for. And particularly, I don't know what it means for A&M, Texas, or Tech. I don't know how much power he had, but there had been some grumblings under the surface that he would be very hesitant to have given those teams any degree of credit in the college football playoff if he could affect that change.
Well, I mean, you probably thought you were safe when you are picking your chair of the playoff selection committee by picking a Indiana alumnus. Fooled you. They actually were pretty good this year.
Yeah.
So, it would be hard for me to believe, and I'm sure he could be professional and divide out his feelings and, compartmentalize and all that. But it would be hard for me to believe somebody who was the athletic director at the University of Houston and then moved to Baylor doesn't have some motivation to hold back schools in his region from passing up the schools that he supports.
Look, I mean, and I would like the reality is,
schools, by the way, had already passed up Baylor and U of H. I'm not putting any of those on an equal playing field, but
but that's very,
opponents.
But that level of petty though actually is very on brand for Baylor. We all know this.
And the Cougars.
And I don't know about the Cougars so much, but it came down to holding off the creation of the Big 12 until they allowed Baylor in. Baylor had no business being in that conference when they founded it. You know that, I know that. And being just completely upset at A&M for leaving and upset at Texas for the Longhorn Network. And really what that came down to was, the original pitch of the Longhorn Network was a co-network for A&M and Texas. When A&M said no, Baylor said, what about us? And Texas said, well, no. No one cares. So them being petty like that, to me, honestly, would be on brand and also shocking that something untoward must have happened on that campus to force him to leave.
Well, and, Baylor had friends in high places at that point, too, which leads to the U of H bitterness. But somehow that always got directed towards Texas and A&M and not Ann Richards and Bob Bullock, because those were, Ann Richards is Baylor alum. Baylor gets in. Bob Bullock is a Tech alum. Tech gets in. U of H probably had the same profile as Tech and certainly was ahead of Baylor at that time in history in the pecking order of college football. And somehow through political machinations and the threat of lawsuits, Baylor and Tech get in. U of H is left out to wander in the wilderness. And to that point, U of H was in 3 conferences before joining the Big 12.
With the WAC, the Conference USA, I mean, just
All-American Conference.
That one just sounds made up.
Just make up some stuff.
Yeah.
I think you can also buy the U of H football program with a Happy Meal purchase, but I don't remember if that's true.
No, I don't.
I think it was every 5th Happy Meal purchase you got a U of H program.
And only at participating, like the one on Kirby, I think you can. Yeah. It actually brings up a fun hypothetical text message you had sent that we didn't really decide we were going to talk about today, but it could be kind of fun before we dive into 2 pretty big names for both school reality. But where would, if you take the Southwest Conference, schools that were in the Southwest Conference, and you reconstitute them, where would the Southwest Conference rank, do you think? And because right now you would have you'd have two perennial powerhouses in Texas and in A&M. And right now, I mean, honestly, as we were joking about, Texas Tech has a booster whose name's on the field that's younger than us. Like, so they've got money that's going to keep coming in for a while. They've got what T. Boone Pickens would be doing if T. Boone Pickens was alive right now. But after that, none of those schools have survived this new era of college football. TCU is irrelevant. I'm sorry, but UH football is irrelevant. Baylor's certainly irrelevant. It would be a pretty shitty conference.
Yeah, because even taking the Southwest Conference at its peak, whenever that was, and I'll throw Arkansas back in there. Let's say they never left. So when it was 9 teams, so 8 Texas teams and Arkansas, you're dealing with playing Baylor.
Really neither south nor west, but okay.
You're dealing with playing Baylor. You're dealing with playing Rice. You're dealing with playing U of H in the Astrodome on turf. TCU was ass. And I don't know. I think it would be worse than the current incarnation of the ACC at this point, because you'd have 2 teams, maybe 3 in a good year, and then just the desert otherwise. And whoever came out of that would just get run into the ground whenever they had to play an opponent from any other conference.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty bad. It would be pretty bad. I mean, in Arkansas, I guess Arkansas would have its occasional relevance.
I think Arkansas would be better because Arkansas would play 8 games a year in the state, 4 games a year, 5 games a year in the state of Texas. And that would help their recruiting, just like it used to help OU when OU played half their games in Texas.
Yeah. Well,
luckily, but I don't see any world where that's it, there, because I know there are alumni on my side. I am sure you have some on your side, the older folks that just, I miss being able to drive to all the games and, jawing with my neighbors about things. And that becomes some revisionist history at some point when we're going to Waco again this year.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, completely. It was, for as much as I've been pretty clear about not loving being in the Southeast Conference now, I mean, I'm still glad it's not even the Big 12 anymore. Like, oh, great. Manhattan, Kansas again. That sounds.
Ames, Iowa is lovely this time.
Yeah. But I do feel like, I don't know. It seems to me discourse about college football right now is getting even more and more ridiculous because it's all about, well, you haven't played anybody, or you haven't played anybody, or you haven't played anybody. And what's funny to me, man, is how, somebody posted, SEC numbers, I think it was this morning, posted Oregon's schedule and said that if Florida or LSU played that schedule, that they would be looking at an undefeated season, not looking for a new coach. And maybe that's true. I don't know. I always hate that argument. But what's almost worse than that argument is the immediate counter argument that comes from when you win that game, another goalpost gets pushed. I just hate the fact that we're in a world right now where, and I'm leading to somewhere because we're going to talk a little politics in a second, whether you want to.
Boy.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
But I'm leading this level of caveat into the fact that there is no reality, into like Megyn Kelly trying to draw the distinction between having sex with a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old, ignoring the fact that both of those are fucking gross.
Megyn Kelly,
also
mother of a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah, who I guess she would be cool with in a year from now. Happy birthday! Here's your date with whoever.
Well, I'm sure Caroline Levitt's 80-year-old husband will be looking for some fresh meat by that point. So
sure.
It'll all work out. To get away from that visual for just a second, yeah, you can argue strength of schedule, and I think that's a relevant data point to some extent, but the football teams, the football coaches don't make their schedule. When you looked at, and I'll just limit it to the A&M Texas conversation, when you look at both of those schools had what I would consider a mid-tier schedule this year. based on what you expected out of those teams. I don't think anybody expected Florida to continue to be as bad as they were this year.
Yeah.
And I don't bring that up to cause you more pain because I know it does.
Oh yeah, I mean it pisses me off.
But it's you play the schedule that's in front of you, and the goal is to win games. And if you win your games, it doesn't matter ultimately who you played because you have to keep winning the games. And I don't get the argument, well, they didn't play anybody. I think that would be true if, I don't know, Indiana had played nothing but MAC teams all season and was ranked number 2. But they didn't. They played Big Ten teams. A&M played the schedule they had. It's not our fault that we've had 5 coaches fired either before or after our games. It wasn't your fault last year that you faced 6 games in a row with a backup quarterback playing. That's how the schedule works. You win the games that are put in front of you. Where the schools do have some control, because I saw, I don't know if it was Sark or Del Conte complaining yesterday. I think it was Sark, about the inequity of the scheduling along the season and how there wasn't conformity. You guys suffer right now from being your second year in the SEC and having to plug in that game at the end of the year.
Yeah. To me, that argument felt so it was part of a larger conversation in which, of course, what happens is they cut out that aside part of it, but
sure,
because he actually acknowledged exactly why it happened. But that is what happens when you get shoehorned into something.
Yeah. Because we certainly dealt with it for our first 3 or 4 years, just trying to find anybody to play in that week when the SEC wouldn't schedule you in November, because traditionally the SEC has scheduled that way. All of this gets solved next year when we go to 9 games. But, at some point, I think that particular issue is on the athletic director for not using the power of being Texas and telling one of those teams that you played in September, not Ohio State, but one of the other 3, hey, we're going to move our game to the 3rd week of November. Deal with it. You want the check, right?
Yeah.
And I guarantee you all 3 of them would have gone, okay, yeah, we would like that check. Thank you. We'll come take our meeting in November.
Or somebody else will somebody else will get the check. Yeah. To me, like, that's the thing. It didn't really, I think the thing, what I hate the most though, is like you go in and you play a team in there. Like, okay, so we're playing Georgia tomorrow. Georgia ranks number 5. So we're ranked the 5th team, we're about to play the 5th team, ranked number 5 team in the country. We beat them. They're going to fall to 12. Well, you didn't really play anybody in the top 10. Yeah, but they fell because we beat them. Like, I think that you have to put some acknowledgement of, it's one thing to look at where they're ranked at the end of the season, but I also think where they're ranked at the time should also matter when we're discussing what the strength of the schedule was.
Well, it's that when you talk about moving goalposts a lot, that is one of the things that you will hear, because typically the teams you beat outside of a handful, and I mean, like, not even a handful, 2 or 3, will drop when they lose games. That's just how rankings work, which is part of the reason, having them so early makes no sense, because you're setting some teams up for more success than others. But it's this idea of, if they're ranked 22nd at the time you play them and you win a top 25 game. If they're ranked 5th at the time you play them and you win, you be the top 5 team. It doesn't matter how they finished at that point. But it's one of the moving goalposts that fan bases like to use. Well, A&M didn't beat anybody that finished ranked in the top 25. You know what? We caused some of that.
Yeah, well, you caused a lot of it. That's the thing, right? Because I mean, I don't know what 3 losses is the most you can have to be ranked, right? Like, so usually it is the moving of the goalpost part is just one of these things that, as an old man, it's the cloud I like to yell at, because it should be the one area in this world where we don't have to debate whether someone's a pedophile because they want to bang a 15-year-old or a 5-year-old, like what Megyn Kelly's doing. We should be able to look at the black and white and say, okay, like somebody was upset that some college football head said that Georgia was Texas's daddy. Well, until Texas beats Georgia, guess what? They're our daddy.
Yeah.
Until A&M consistently beats Texas, I'm sorry. That's just the way it goes. That's the beauty of sports. Until OU does something, they're our daddy or our child or whatever.
When you say
Phrase,
something, you mean don't default on your bills because you're poor?
yes.
I mean, you think of all the trailer parks that are risk every time OU loses. You feel bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, you feel terrible. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's one of those interesting things. I don't like the term daddy because there's
a sexual connotation that I don't like either.
There's a whole lot of, I mean, it's a step away from the gimp in Pulp Fiction. And
I don't like little bro either, because first
I don't
of
like
all,
that still.
Yeah.
Well, and that one becomes stupid because what does that mean exactly? Because in the common world, if somebody's your little brother, that means you're older than them. So great. A&M was opened 5 years before Texas was opened.
Yeah.
Texas was a bigger school for the majority of the two schools' existence. It's not now just based on undergraduates. Texas has more money based on the PUF distribution. Half of that money that Texas gets goes to the UT Medical branch. So that's I don't know what it means. And it just feels like it's low-hanging fruit for fan bases that don't want to do any kind of critical thinking about A, their opponents, and B, their rivals, and C, themselves.
And probably also didn't go to those universities.
Well, there is a lot of that. And I don't begrudge somebody living in Austin and deciding, well, this is the team I'm going to follow because I live in Austin, or because my dad followed them, or because I like cows. I don't begrudge some guy working in a gas station in Marlin, Texas, deciding he's an A&M fan because of proximity and legacy. Like who you like, root for who you want to root for, but do acknowledge that your stake in a school might be slightly less than somebody who actually paid tuition.
That's what I'm trying to. That's been how I've been trying to articulate this for 3 years of doing this show, and you finally figured it out. Texas would not have the biggest athletic department in college football, or one of the biggest, if it wasn't for people that bought their shirts at Walmart. I get that, but also understand that it's probably a little bit different for you. I can't just get mad and give up on the team and quit watching, because part of my guts and soul and memories and a big part of my marriage is in that time, is wrapped in that time of me going there.
I am the living embodiment, and you know this, of that meme of the old man sitting on the bench mad but holding an umbrella over his wife. That is me in A&M athletics. Great. They piss me off.
I'm going to find that for the next thumbnail.
I mean, they literally piss me off more than anything in my life pisses me off. And I was an Astros fan long before I enrolled at Texas A&M University. The Astros don't piss me off because I'm willing to give them so much grace, I think. Just they're more like my cousins that, I hang out with. But there is something about, I can get as angry and upset and literally not be able to articulate words after a bad loss for a while, when A&M football especially loses a game that I think they should win, or just, one of the soul-crushing losses that I've had to endure as a fan over the last 37 years. And still, no matter what I say, still follow the score. And even if I consciously don't watch the game, I have the alerts coming on my phone, so I know every time there's a turnover, and I know every time there's a touchdown. I know every time there's a score, and I know the end of the quarter scores and the final score, because I have all of those alerts set up for that game. I don't know how you are a fan of a sport or a fan of a team and just go, well, they're not winning, so I'll tune in next year.
I don't know how you do that either. I don't know how you do it for your professional school.
Or I'll root for my backup team now. I'll go root for Florida State or whatever it is at the time.
Yeah, like that Fansville commercial about the backup school is just like genius. Like, I mean, I want a Fansville movie, just edit them all together. But I completely agree. And it's like, I don't understand how people can just decide they're not going to be an Astros fan for a while. I certainly can't understand how they're going to decide I'm just not going to be a school with your university. But it's also why you can tell alums are different, because we also care about winning the smaller sports. And we also care about the fact that we have like the jackass that tried to say that no school in the SEC was on academic footing with Notre Dame. And I'm like, well, there are actually 3 that are very much on the same academic footing as Notre Dame. Probably 4, actually. Vanderbilt's academics are a little overinflated, but Florida, Texas, and Texas A&M, particularly for also being public schools, are absolutely on equal academic footing with Notre Dame.
And Georgia is probably right in that conversation as well. Just based on the size, scope, and the academic reputation of those schools. And that's so typical of Notre Dame fans because they have bought into this idea that the reason they haven't won a national championship since 1988 is because of their academic rigor. Oh, we just can't recruit the same kids. No, you've had shitty coaches and you refuse to play in a conference. So you're in an uphill battle literally every year. And you only get the inflated self-worth that you have because of your name recognition. But we're talking 1988.
Longhorns. Yeah, and I grew up rooting for Notre Dame. I'm not embarrassed to say it. It was what you did in an Irish Catholic household. With my grandfather was a UT alum, and whatever. But yeah, although I don't know, man, them joining the conference, it might not matter. I mean, think about how they're talking about Notre Dame now, like they're world beaters when they lost to the only 2 teams with a pulse they played, one of which was a bad loss at home. Like, I don't know. There's this argument of, should a 9-3 Texas get in over a 10-2 Notre Dame? I'm pretty good about taking the burnt orange glasses off long enough. I think they should. I think Texas's resume at 9-3 is way better than a 10-2 Notre Dame.
Well, at the same time, where Notre Dame loses out is there is no second chance. They have to win 10 games or they're not in the conversation. And frankly, if I did things like upset alerts, I'd probably put some money on Pitt this weekend. Maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe Notre Dame blows them out. But if Pitt wins, Pitt probably gets to the point where they're in the conversation about the playoffs and Notre Dame's completely out of the conversation about the playoffs.
It certainly would help Texas's chances because I think trying to ask Texas to do what Texas is going to have to do to get into the playoff the next 3 weeks is a big ask for any team.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely in a situation where you need a little bit of help. I know you're in the bracket right now, but there's some things that would be better for you if it fell your way.
I don't know that any team would have a hard time saying you've got to beat 5 and then beat 3 in basically 3 weeks. That's a tough ask for any team to do. So
maybe that's what Sark was. But maybe that's what Sark was talking about. Notre Dame gets to play Navy in week 9.
I mean, but I do think
the SEC is playing Navy in week 9.
But I know that we know that some change is going to have to come. But that is part of it, right? The part of it is the lack of equity among the conferences makes all of this. Like, what is the incentive for Notre Dame to do nothing but play? Why even play Miami and A&M? Go find 2 more cupcakes for you to play. Go 12-0 every year, and then you're in the playoff. Like, what is the incentive for them to actually, like, the lack of equity?
The current setup says that strength of schedule, strength of record should matter, but clearly the way they're doing the rankings, it doesn't.
So does strength of ratings, my friend.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. So, if you want to go ahead and take the top ratings draw into the playoffs every year, then just say that and do it, because lying to us about, well, you have this chance if you're this, and this, it doesn't play out that way.
Yeah. Before we move on, I know we want to talk some Astros because Dana Brown, sometimes he reminds me of Charlie Strong in his public relations acumen, as in not having any. A&M, there's a little bit of a revenge factor. A&M's they're a 19.5 point favorite right now. Is there any concern for you? And I mean, to me, I think you guys are rolling into Derek K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium at 11-0, and I don't even think you need to worry about it. What about you? Got any concern this week?
Well, to just head off the critics, yes, Samford has fired their head coach. That will be the 6th head coach that is being fired that we're facing this year. They might even play a backup quarterback, so just discount the whole Samford win that we're going to get. This week, the concern is all around Lenoris Sellers. I got his name right. That's yay for me. And it's based on two things. A, he destroyed us last year and derailed our season. But coincidentally, that was also the game where Le'Veon Moss went out for the rest of the year with an injury that he still, I don't think fully recovered from. And that's part of why he's out now, but other injuries happened as well. And B, we had to face Arkansas's quarterback, Green, who has a similar profile as far as being a dual threat quarterback. I think that A&M's defense, not unlike Texas's defense, plays dramatically better at home than they do on the road. And I'm not one of the people who think A&M's defense is bad. I think A&M's defense is geared towards doing something that the national pundits don't necessarily care for. Because all I heard after the Missouri game that we got no credit for winning was, well, you're facing a third-string quarterback and you still gave up 100-yard games to two running backs. Yes, they had 220 yards between them. We only ended up giving up 270 yards in the entire game.
Yeah.
So Elko's defense is designed to – you're going to get a couple of big gash runs at some point against our defense. That's how we're designed. You're not going to get big hits down the field in the passing game. We're going to shut that down, and that's primarily what happened against Missouri. So the challenge this week is containing Lenoris Sellers and seeing some growth and development out of our defensive ends, because when we had to face Taylon Green with Arkansas, we allowed their offensive line to just escort our ends completely up the field, and Green and running backs also just kept running off right tackle for big chunk plays. I think that stops this week. A, because we're playing at home and we play better at home, and B, because I'm hoping that if Elko is the coach that we think he is, that's what they've been talking about all week. And then you do have a certain revenge factor, because there's a lot of A&M players and fans who think South Carolina is the game that derailed our season last year.
Yeah.
So having said that, could South Carolina win the game? Could Lenoris Sellers go off? Those are things that could happen. I'm not worried about this team at this point of the season, because they've proven to be more than the teams we've had in the recent past that have set up a lot of the battered Aggie syndrome that a lot of us suffer from.
You think Marcel Reed's got any shot at going in the NFL this year? I mean, I've started to see him talk. You don't think so?
No. I don't think that's him. I think he is aware that he has further development to go. And B, there's still some things that I think it's always interesting to me. So as an aside, these kids have agents now, and they will go get a grade on their own from potential scouts before the NFL grading system even happens. And they'll be told, oh yeah, you've got a chance to be a top three pick or a third round pick in the NFL. And then you see there's no shortage in any program of these kids leaving way too early and finding out that that's not what they are. And maybe they become an undrafted free agent, or maybe they just go work at a gas station somewhere. And if you know the Anthony Michael Hall movie I'm referencing right there, just go ahead and give yourself a this point.
There's a lot of boobies in that movie.
There were. Johnny be good.
I'm very.
But it's this. With Reed, I think he's got a good enough support system, especially his dad is very much involved with his coaching and progress, that they know they need at least one more year because his footwork goes in and out during games. He still throws sliders sometimes when that footwork's not working, and he still doesn't have a command of the deep ball. And despite the fact he's been very accurate the last couple of weeks, I think overall accuracy is the ultimate pinpoint for what you have to be in the NFL quarterback. Being an NFL quarterback is an entirely different world than being a college quarterback, because you can be Marcel Reed and be a very, very valuable college quarterback because you're a dual threat. You can run, but you can also exist an entire season at 185 to 195 pounds.
Right.
he's got to put on muscle, he's got to put on weight, and he's got to just master his craft more than he has to this point. And that's not an insult, because I think he's a very good quarterback, but to be a great quarterback and be, the guy I think he has in his goals, that's going to take at least another year of seasoning. But I think A&M has him for 3 years, and I think he will look dramatically better going into next year with another offseason of weight training and study and just working on his craft. So I'm not worried about that. And I don't think he's invited to New York for the Heisman ceremony.
I think he is.
I don't think at this point, because they only take 3 kids now. They tell you the final 3, and those are the ones that get invited. It's not like it used to be where just everybody showed up and hoped they might win.
Yeah, I don't know that I would. I mean, I think the Heisman winner is probably the kid from Indiana, but.
Well, he had his Heisman moment, and if you don't believe that he had his Heisman moment, just listen to Gus Johnson, because he'll tell you he cried. His voice actually cracked because he was so happy for Mendoza.
He was. Boy, he's terrible.
He's the worst.
And borderline misogynist, too.
Well, there's that.
When he refers to his sideline reporter as a girl, it just makes Jessica's eyes roll.
Does he know the difference? But does he know the difference between a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old?
Well, I don't. I'm assuming maybe he knows there's a difference. I don't know. It's all just ick for me. Texas and Georgia. I don't know, man. I don't have any confidence Texas wins that game.
It's real interesting from where I sit, because as we've talked about, Texas's defense plays a different game on the road than they do at home. You don't know what you're going to get out of your offensive line, so you don't know what you're going to get out of Arch Manning game to game. And I think Manning, having said that, Manning has looked much better the last 3 weeks than he looked the 8 week, or it's not 8 weeks, 6 weeks prior to that. But if his offensive line can't contain what Georgia brings from a defense, and I don't think this is the same Georgia team from last year. I don't think they're a national.
They're in the hundreds in sacks. They don't put pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah. And so that's, if I'm a Texas fan, that gives me a little bit of hope. But your offensive line has played so porously that, is this the game where Georgia breaks out?
Yeah.
There is also the narrative of Sark versus Kirby about, does Kirby have Sark's number, or is last year just a bad year? And this is Sark gets to come out on that. So
I don't
think it's a tough pull for you guys this late in the season with this version of your team. I think Georgia is a better all-around team right now, but it would not surprise me that this is a very close game going into the fourth quarter.
I feel like Georgia's a better team right now, but I think Texas has more talent. I just think Texas is still figuring out how to put that talent together. I'm curious as to see. The big thing for last week, or the Vanderbilt game, is that Texas reshuffled the entire offensive line. Maybe that was the combination that they've been looking for all year. I don't know. Statistically, Vanderbilt gets after the quarterback better than Georgia does. So I don't know. I just feel like on the road, I feel like you've already won. It's why I feel like it's why I already see people thinking Longhorns will make the playoffs at 9-3, because I think people probably feel like this one's a loss. I think the key will be to keep it close. I think you can't look at being 9-3 and making the playoffs if you lose by 2 scores. Like, I think you've got to lose by a field goal if you're going to lose it.
Oh, no, I think it has to be a respectable loss. I don't think you can go out and get your doors blown off Saturday and then expect to be in the playoff conversation past that, regardless of what happens with your Arkansas and A&M after.
Yeah.
But I also don't think that Georgia is built to blow your doors off this year. But again, I would like to, if I were a Texas fan, I would like to see your defense play as well in Athens as they do in Austin. And if that happens, you have a chance to pull the upset. I just haven't seen it this year yet, so I don't know that it's a thing that you're capable of. You've had a week to prepare. Does Pete K have different bullets he can put in his gun?
It's so the home road difference for both schools is so weird to me. Just it's so, because defense is supposed to travel, and it's just interesting to me how much it seems to not. But that's we'll see how that goes. Last thing, Dana Brown decides to announce now that Cam Smith hasn't really earned anything going into next year. And I agree with that. I do. I don't understand why you're making a point of saying it at the winter meetings the GM meetings, not the winter meetings, when everything that you say is going to be magnified because there's nothing else for sports writers to write about. There's been no fewer than 3 articles written by Chandler Rome, Brian McTaggart, and somebody else about, Cam Smith has been put on a he better watch his job. He's going to lose. I don't get it. I don't understand the strategy there.
Yeah, and I don't know if Dana Brown feels that motivation through the media is the way to go for this particular player, because there are other players he has not called out in the public in a press conference setting. Yainer Diaz was pretty horrible for most of last year. You didn't hear any words about that in the media about, Yainer's going to lose out on playing time because Victor Caratini is playing a much more solid game right now. That's not a thing. So I don't know what Dana Brown's thought process was, but I do think it's more bluster than anything else. Like, here's a challenge, young man, go get it kind of thing. Why that needed to happen at the GM meetings, I don't know. But I don't think there's a world where Cam Smith isn't a centerpiece of this team in 2026, barring just a complete collapse, because so much was given for him from a value standpoint in the Kyle Tucker trade. That was the piece. Cam Smith was the piece that Dana Brown held out for to get that deal done. I think Dana Brown's got a lot of Cam Smith has to perform motivation in his own personal, do I have a contract beyond 2026? Because he doesn't right now.
Right.
He's put his eggs, similar to other GMs in the Astros organization over the last couple of years, he's put his eggs in a basket of a player that has to perform. And I would think that you would challenge him, but I don't know, challenging him in public makes almost zero sense to me. The other thing is you don't have any good replacements. I know that there are people who are high on Zach Cole, but he's going to be a 26-year-old career minor leaguer who, yes, hits for some power, but what else can he do? I mean, is he going to patrol center field for us? Because evidently Jake Myers, his value has never been higher, and I would absolutely support the Astros seeing what they could get for him, because they do need pitching. They do need a left-handed bat. The moves that they're being attached
Dana
to.
Brown has said he has no intention of even shopping Christian Walker, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
You even say it.
So does that mean you're playing Paredes, or does Paredes hurt more than we think? Because he's also said that Paredes might be 80 or 90% by the time the season opens, which means to me that the not getting a surgery last season was a horrible, horrible mistake.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of mystery and intrigue and self-inflicted errors, unforced errors coming out of the front office right now that I don't understand. I could see a world where you have a brand new center fielder, or maybe Cam Smith is your center fielder. Probably has the speed to play that, and he picked up right field pretty well. Maybe he can play center field. They still need 4 starting pitchers in my mind. They still need bullpen help. They still need a left-handed bat. They need the left-handed bat Dana Brown's been searching for since the day that he showed up on Crawford Street. So I don't know what the plan is. I hope there are moves that make all of this make sense. But right now I'm bewildered as to what the goal even is for 2026.
Yeah, it looks like could be another very mid-season. And I hate to feel that way in November, but it kind of feels like that's where we're headed.
Well, at this point last year, we're going to lose Fromber. I guess that doesn't become official for 4 more days, but when he declines the 1-year offer, he'll be a full free agent, and then that'll go, and we'll probably sign Justin Verlander again, because that seems to be a thing that Jim Crane likes doing. And I'm fine with that, like we talked about in the last show or a couple shows ago. But we do need a frontline starter to join Hunter Brown. We do need Christian Javier to bounce back. Verlander is fine as a 4th starter in this rotation, but you still need one more guy. And is that somebody in AAA
that
right
guy's
now?
Not Dylan Cease. I know that seems to be what everybody wants, but Dylan Cease's numbers have not been great. I don't think you cannot throw a bunch of money at Dylan Cease which seems to be the rumor mill.
And I think that if you want to criticize Jim Crane, I know 10 names in baseball, and I'm going to keep attaching myself to them. Somehow Dylan Cease got on Jim Crane's radar a few years ago. And I don't know why, because I don't know that he's a big White Sox fan at some point.
Yeah.
Other than Dylan Cease pitches very well against the Astros. And maybe that's where this all comes from, that, he beats us all the time, so he must be good. His career numbers are fairly mid for the talent level that he has. He can have absolutely dominant games, but he can also go on a stretch of 6 starts where he doesn't win a game and is posting a 4.5 ERA. So I don't know what you get for the money he's going to command. I also think they're going to have to look at the trade market rather than free agent market for a starter, just because that seems financially to line up better with what the Astros typically do. And if that's the case, what bullets do you have to trade? Well, we're not going to trade Christian Walker. He's going to be our first baseman. So then Paredes has to be on the block, you would think. But then why would you say out loud that he's not going to be healthy when the season starts? Why wouldn't you just keep your mouth shut about that?
No idea.
So it's the Dana Brown show, and I'm not out on him, but it's wearing a little bit thin right now because I'm not seeing the results from the words.
Well, and the other thing too is he was brought in to rebuild the farm system, mostly through the draft, and the Astros will get 2 additional draft picks once Fromberg rejects his qualifying offer, and because Hunter Brown finished top 3 in the Cy Young voting.
But not if we sign Dylan Cease, we'll be giving up at least one of those. I mean, it's not a direct 1-for-1, but if you sign anybody who got a qualifying offer, you're losing a draft pick.
And that to me immediately should be, especially when you're especially when you're looking at the fact that you're looking at really trying to play for 2026.
Any team that is interested in competing, all your chips should be in for this year because it's all going to be wiped out in 2027.
Yeah, whatever season we have will be probably a Mickey Mouse 60-game season where everybody gets in the playoffs, and then here you go.
Yeah, well, I see a scenario where, we don't want to go over the tax limit. We don't want to go over it, 2 or 3 years in a row. Does it matter if you're going to have a work stoppage in 2027 when the whole economic system of baseball is going to get rewritten? Do you think there's anybody who is going to force the owners to pay a tax on a season knowing that there's no next season?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you have to go all in. And I also think that's also why you should avoid giving any long, stupid contracts for this year, for beyond that, because you just don't know what the system is going to look like.
And unfortunately, our fan base, if they don't know a guy, let's say, and I'm just making up something here, but I think Cincinnati's got a guy who could profile as a solid number 2 as a starter, and he may be on the block because Cincinnati's probably going to start shedding payroll a little bit. Let's say we traded for him. Nobody in the Astros fan base knows anything about a Cincinnati starter, so that will be viewed as a loss or underwhelming, regardless of the actual performance.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't with the fan base. The good thing about the fans is if you win games, they quickly forget how angry they were about you not getting Dylan Cease or the name they knew. Does Jim Crane feel the same way? Because he does like his names.
He does. He likes his names. And that's obviously not great for fans because it means that he's giving just enough time to he's paying just enough attention to the names that he's heard once and not doing the deep dive. What I'm trying to do with, as far as how I feel about Dana Brown, is I'm trying to separate. I think he has the potential to be a good GM, but if for some reason Cam Smith is considered now your 4th outfielder, then that's a big miss because the Astros with Kyle Tucker maybe go on a run in the playoffs.
Well, they probably make the playoffs.
They probably at least make the playoffs.
And then Tucker goes real quiet because it turned October.
But the point is, you gave up a lot for Cam Smith. You better sure as shit seen him as what carries the Astros, the first part of rebuilding Correa, Altuve, and Springer. Like that better have been your first piece of rebuilding that type of thing.
Well, yeah, and part of that's giving them every opportunity to succeed. So if you're telling a kid who's 23 years old that You know what? You may end up in AAA at the beginning of the season because this is all open right now. Is Cam Smith the guy who's motivated by that, or is Cam Smith the guy who feels that extra pressure on his shoulders and crumbles a little bit?
Well, and I think you can't do that now. You can't do that now after being upfront about giving him every opportunity and riding through his struggles his rookie year.
Yeah.
You can only play that tactic once. If you play that tactic his rookie year, you're just saying, I know you had a great spring, but this is a hard game and you need to ease into it. If you do it this year, it's because you disappointed us because you didn't have a great first third and you didn't have a great last third of the season. So it's not good management.
But I would also argue the reason he didn't have a great last third of the season is because of mismanagement.
Yeah. Well, he played way more baseball than he's ever played.
And picking up Jesus Sanchez to replace him or platoon with him was a miss.
Yeah. And who made that miss? General manager. Okay. Well, we didn't miss. We'll be back on Monday to wrap up another weekend of college football. Texas will probably have another loss. And so then we'll look at them. Andy and I'll break down whether or not we think they still have a shot at the playoff with being a 3-loss team. I contend they still do. I think he contends they still do. So we'll see.
And we'll also talk about 2 episodes of Welcome to Dairy because we're skipping it this week because this last episode was kind of a world building episode. And I know fans.
And I didn't get to watch it yet because Jessica.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. Yes.
There's a little bit more exposition than the first 2 episodes had. So it's necessary if you're actually building a world. So I know some people watching it, some of the reviews were like, well, this was boring. And they were telling a story. Fuck off.
Yeah. How I feel about online sports fans is how I feel about online movie and TV fans. They don't know what they don't know. All right. Well, for Andy, I'm Jim. This has been Off Day with Ballpark Nation. We will be back next week. Have a good weekend. See ya.
Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it